Hello and welcome back to another FPL transfer tips video. This is the first one in a few weeks now, so we are looking at our current points as you can see on the screen from game week 10. We missed out game week 11 as I was away on holiday, and of course it's just been the international breaks. We're back after a couple of weeks with some more transfer tips this week. Obviously a very popular week for wildcarding, so if you haven't already seen my wildcard video, make sure to go and have that a look. You know, it's about half an hour video and it's got absolutely everything you need if you are looking to wildcard this week. So looking at our game week 10 scores, nice little week, you know, not huge returns from everyone, but it's mainly been like our sells and avoids that have done well this week. I have marked down Son as a success despite only getting 4 points. Usually I like to keep 5 as the benchmark, but Son picked up an assist, so I would consider a return, you know, a successful week for that player at least. Our only two, you know, disappointments being Wisa and 8 Nuri. Wisa ended up scoring a double and getting like 15 or 17 points in game week 11, so if you did buy him anyway, yes, instantly it wasn't the best, but then he ended up doing fantastically the week after, so can kind of consider him a success, but obviously on our seasonal success rate for the immediate game week, we can't mark him down unfortunately, but we are sitting at 67%, which is still pretty decent. We're looking at a 2 out of 3 successes, you know, for every 3 transfer tips 2 of them work out, which is still okay. We'd like to get that above the 70%, so we've got 6 more transfers today. Let's take a look at them. So we're starting off today with the big one, and it is Erling Haaland. For me, he is going to be a sell this week. A lot of these tips, you know, I would have already mentioned in more depth in the wildcard guide video. So again, like I just mentioned, make sure you go check that out after this one. But yeah, for me, I think Haaland is a sell this week. I'll look at the captaincies in just a sec. He's due to drop in price tonight, so if you are looking to get him out, make sure you do it before he drops down to 15.1 million, because if you got him at the start of the game at 15 million, you are going to lose 0.1 in value due to that drop. So just a couple of difficult fixtures for him from game week 12 to about game week 18. There's not really like a good fixture in there other than potentially Crystal Palace away, but even just the immediate games, you know, Spurs at home, Liverpool away, and even Nottingham Forest isn't an easy fixture, with them being the second best defence in the league surprisingly so far this season. He's already been transferred out almost 300,000 times, and for me I believe it is for good reason. I can pull up the graphic from yesterday which does show you the captaincy picks from game week 12 all the way up to game week 19, and again you just have a decent alternative or a better alternative to Haaland for captaincy over the next 8 game weeks, which really means you don't have to have him. For someone who's 15 million, you know, one blank can be catastrophic for your game week, considering everyone else who doesn't have him is going to have your Salahs, Palmers and Sakas. These are the players you can go with without having obviously Erling Haaland in your team. So you can see all the games on screen. I'm not going to go through them all, but yeah, even when Haaland comes to the better games in game week 18 against Everton and then 19 against Leicester, you've still got good alternatives in Salah and Palmer to go instead of him if you potentially can't get back to Haaland in game week 18. But up until that point, you know, you've just got better captaincy options by going for the premium midfielders. So with all that money in the bank, you're going to have to buy those premium midfielders because they're going to be your captaincy pick. So we've got Mo Salah here this week. He does have some pretty difficult fixtures in the immediate future. He does have Southampton this week, which he is expected to do really well, and he probably is going to be your captain for this weekend. After that, it's Manchester City and it's Newcastle. Now, they haven't been as strong defensively as they have done in previous seasons. I believe City are only sitting about 5th for the best defence in the league. You know, I think it's Liverpool, Forest, Arsenal, then Fulham, and then I believe it's Man City, and then Newcastle aren't even in the top 7. So I do think Salah can still do well. You know, it's a home game against Man City as well, which is always, you know, a benefit towards him doing well. He isn't expected to rise in the near future. He's got another week or so I don't think he'll rise before the deadline. He is up to 12.9 million already though, so he is quite expensive. But yeah, my main reasoning for getting him in at this point is just because he is going to be your captaincy cover for, you know, about 3 or 4 weeks over the next, you know, 6, 7. So definitely a nice one, and he still, I believe, can do well in those difficult red fixtures in the next 2-3 weeks. Now, next up, we have a pretty popular transfer in, and that's going to be Matheus Cunha. Now, obviously, Wolves have a really nice run of fixtures over the next couple of weeks. You know, we've seen Aït-Nouri already being a popular transfer in. Another one that people are bringing in is Cunha, and he's definitely probably Wolves' best player. However, he is 6.8 million, so you would expect him to be, you know, one of your cheaper attackers, but really, you know, he's just a little bit below 7. He's not the cheapest in the world. You do get a lot more cheaper options. And it's not to say he's not great. You know, I do think you should avoid him. I'll look at his stats in a little second as to why, but yeah, I just think there's better value in a lot of other players. You know what, I'll be better just switching over, just so I can explain things a little bit better. So you can see with his XG, you know, he's sitting in 19th for expected goals. And speaking of the value, you can see Strand Larsen in there, who is the other Wolves attacker, who is beating him in XG. And then when you look at these shots on target, he's also equaling him on shots on target as well. So in terms of value, you're getting Strand Larsen for about $1 million cheaper than Cunha. And I think he is just a little bit better of a pick if you did want to go for a Wolves attacker. Personally, I don't think I would go towards that Wolves attack. I think there is better attacks you can go for, because, you know, the fixtures on paper look great, but in terms of, you know, playing against some of the better defences in the league, the only poor defence they've actually got in the next 5 games is probably Ipswich, who are the worst defence in the league. But at that point, you could potentially get Cunha in game week 16, you know, 5 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. West Ham are probably your next worst, with, I think they're sitting about the 8th worst defence or 7th worst defence. But other than that, Fulham the 4th best. I think Bournemouth are sitting about 9th, and Everton are like right mid-table as the 10th best / worst defence. So not the best fixtures. I'm not expecting Cunha to get like braces and hat-tricks over the next 3 games. I think he could definitely be a pick in a couple of weeks' time, but again, do slightly prefer Strand Larsen for that better value. So it's one of those ones where, yes, like there's a lot of hype around him right now. In terms of actual points, he is the one getting them over Strand Larsen. He's picked up a lot more bonus points and, you know, a lot more goals. But, well, I'll say that, only 1 more goal and 1 more assist than Strand Larsen's got. But again, in terms of like overperforming the stats, 2.21 XG, and he's scored 5 goals. So he's got over double the amount of goals than he has XG. So expecting that to drop off a little bit. And again, like I said, against these better defences in the next 3 matches, I think you could be surprised a little bit if you are expecting something from him. So for me personally, would be avoiding him right now. Potentially a couple weeks down the line, we'll see how it goes. Could move him in, but I think for the next couple, I'd at least be staying away. Next up, we have someone who hasn't actually been spoken about in the last couple of weeks, did pick up an injury just before the international break, and that's going to be Dwight McNeil. Now, he has been mass sold off, you know, 150,000 transfers out so far this week, due to drop in a couple of days as well. For me, I think it's a little bit premature. He has returned to full team training. We got some confirmation, I think it was 4 days ago that he returned to full team training, so he should be well available for the game against Brentford at the weekend. And if you've held McNeil for a while, or you've been watching these videos, you know he has been one of the better midfielders for stats. So, you know, I can't really pull the stats up now because he's missed some recent games and he's not got as many minutes, so it's not really going to be fair. However, he is one of the better midfielders and definitely one of the best value midfielders, you know, up there with your likes of Morgan Rogers, and he has much better stats than Rogers offers. So for me, 3 more weeks I think on McNeil. I think he's got 4 really difficult games after the Wolves game in game week 15, or game week 14, sorry. I think game week 15 onwards, that's where at that point you can get rid of him. But for me, definitely Everton's, you know, one of Everton's best attacking players this season. Brentford are a very poor defence. Man United aren't exactly the best either, and then Wolves obviously I think are the 4th worst defence so far this season, Brentford being the 5th worst defence. So I think McNeil can do really well. I wouldn't be selling him. I think you would regret it. A couple weeks down the line again, he's probably one that you would look to move on, but for now he's definitely a keep. Next up, we have Alexander Isak. So we just spoke about avoiding Cunha. For me, I think Isak is definitely the better option. Again, you probably know why if you've watched this week's wildcard video. But for me, I think Isak is going to be your best attacker for the upcoming games. I'll speak about it in a little second when it comes to playing or the teams that he plays against. But he's sitting at 8.5 million right now, with 200 transfers in already this season. It was a bit of a disappointment at the start of the season, but it does seem to be coming back into form. Something we did mention when we sold him, that he was someone to look at again when it comes to game week 10, 11, 12, when the fixtures do get a little bit better for him. So he's got West Ham at home at the weekend, followed by Crystal Palace, two teams that do seem to be struggling a little bit, and I think Isak could do quite well. Now again, pulling a graphic from yesterday's wildcard video, these are what I thought were the best 5 attackers. Obviously you can see Isak, who we're going to be focusing on. He's got 3 games in the next 5 where he plays against a defence that's in the worst 8. So West Ham, again, the 6th worst defence in the league. They've got them at the weekend. Palace and Liverpool, a little bit more solid, and then after that is Brentford away, the 5th worst defence, and then Leicester at home, the 3rd worst defence. So out of these 5 attackers on screen, Isak was the only one who plays against 3 of the worst defences in the next 5 games. Everyone else was only 2. So that's why I think Isak is going to be your best forward option. And again, if you're selling the likes of Erling Haaland, you're going to be freeing up a lot more budget and getting in a mid-priced attacker like Isak. I don't think it's going to be too much of a bother. Next up, we have one of the better value defenders, and that's going to be Ola Aina. Now, he is now 4.8 million. He has risen pretty rapidly over the last few weeks. Obviously scored in the last couple of games as well. Has 123,000 transfers in already. If you're one of those people, you've probably not looked at the fixtures, because Forest's fixtures are not looking good for the short future. Arsenal away at the weekend. The Ipswich home's a really nice one. And then obviously Manchester City away as well. I think if you're someone who owns Aina, I would try and bench him this week. I don't think I'd be selling him, because the Ipswich at home fixture is going to be really nice. And as I've been, blabbering on all video about Forest being the 2nd best defence in the league, it's probably going to be a nailed-on clean sheet that you would hope, keep your fingers crossed, against Ipswich. So I wouldn't be buying him right now, because the fixtures aren't great, and you're basically just wasting a transfer for someone who's going to sit on the bench for the next couple of weeks. If you own him, he's probably going to be a keep. Because you want him for that Ipswich game. After that, you could probably sell him, but he's only 4.5 million or 4.8 million now. So for me, I think in terms of buying him, I think there's a lot better options like Digne, who's a similar price. 8 Nuri if you don't have him already, and a couple other ones that I can't think off the top of my head. I just think there's a lot better options for the same price with a lot better fixtures. So despite Aina being very good value, I think he's probably one to look at when the Forest fixtures get a little bit better. But for right now, with 2 of the hardest fixtures in the league away from home, probably an avoid. And then finally, rounding it all off, we have Bruno Fernandes, one of the biggest headaches of the season so far. I owned him for the first 6 game weeks, where he was absolutely romping all of the stat charts, and obviously never returned. Now he is still right up there with the stat charts, we'll look at it in a little sec, and now he's actually starting to return a little bit. He got some points last week, some points the week before, a new manager coming in, hoping that he's going to be able to get more out of him in terms of attacking output. But the next 2 games for him are pretty solid. Ipswich away, expecting him to do okay, and then Everton at home. The only issue with buying him, is the Man United fixtures are a little bit more difficult after that Arsenal game. So you'd be buying him right now for 2 fixtures. You really have to keep that in mind, because if you want him for the long term, it's probably not going to work out too well. But there is a lot of players that you can get in 2 weeks' time, who do have nice fixtures. So if you maybe get a free transfer sitting about, and you're looking for something to do, I think getting Bruno in would be a really nice move for his games over the next 2. But again, just make sure that that you're probably going to have to get him out in 2 weeks' time. Again, as I said, pulling up a graphic from yesterday, sitting 4th for shots and expected goal involvements from midfielders. Only behind, some of your big point scorers, Salah, Palmer and Buemo. your 3 top scorers in midfield so far this season. Bruno Fernandes is right behind them on that. So again, like I said, really think he could do well against Ipswich, especially with that new manager bounce from Man United. And it's kind of like another one of a bit of a risk. I don't think he's going to be a huge transfer in for a lot of people, unless obviously he scores like a hat-trick this week. Then he'll probably be transferred in loads for the Everton game. But he's a nice little pick, you know, to kind of move from the template a little bit for the next 2 weeks, and then obviously move him on for that Arsenal game. So a really nice pick for me. I think Bruno Fernandes is a nice buy. So that's what rounds off this video. We have 7 picks. I said 6 at the start. 7 picks for this week. 3 buys, 1 sell, 1 keep, and 2 avoids. If there's any more players that you want to know my opinion of, make sure just to leave it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, because we do this every single week. And I'll see you all in the next video.